Now, a collector might identify a comic like this by its genre: action-adventure, fantasy, drama, murder mystery. But what about something I just found in my pocket? How would you classify that? Well, believe it or not, we know a man who thinks he's come up with an answer.
We leave St. Louis and head north, into the thick of the Midwest, to Bloomington, Illinois. Known for its scenic downtown, the headquarters of the State Farm Corporation, the final resting places of both Adlai Stevensons, and home to Brian Collier.
Creator, curator, and archivist of the Collier classification system for very small objects.
An artist and educator, Collier became interested in the creation of taxonomies used by natural history museums to categorize their collections.
I was fascinated by the universal nature of it and how everybody all over the world will know then what these things are based on this one language.
In the middle of this research, he discovered a possible opening to a new project.
I identified these objects that you would find everywhere, basically. The detritus of the natural world that sort of exists and we mostly consider dirt. These very small objects didn't have a single classification system that could name them as a whole entity.
Excited and energized, Collier began tinkering with a new taxonomy all his own.
I decided on a specific size. 8 millimeters by 8 millimeters by 25 millimeters, anything that could basically fit through the mouth of that vial. As I was collecting these objects, I began to construct this classification system. I created, instead of a Latinized binomial, I created an anglicized trinomial nomenclature, which is an English-based 3-word name system. Z7, here we go. So this is a Nellypart Pock conjoin Whiticillus Guishunlick. I took just descriptive phrases and words, and then I broke them down into word fragments that could then be reassembled into this trinomial name structure. Nellyfrag, Nellypart, Nellyhole, only frag, only part, only hole. So the 6 major categories are never living fragment, never living part, never living whole, once living fragment, once living part, once living whole.
But with all classification systems, you're going to need some actual physical objects.
When I was inventing the taxonomy, I collected what I call a control group. I would walk out into the garden, I would reach down into my pockets and I'd pull out bits of lint. And these are the permanent storage and display cases. And so each one of these vials contains a single, very small object that has been cataloged in this list. It's been photographed and put in the master collection database, which is online. And it also exists in these master collection catalogs, blown up photographs of each object as it was when it was initially collected, or close to when it was initially collected. And this actually stretches all the way out to a couple of 100 feet.
In addition to these cleverly designed catalogs, Collier also created other pieces to help complement the project.
I think I have about 60 of these drawings that I've drawn from some of the more visually interesting objects from the collection itself. And this is exactly the same as the large catalog, just in a miniaturized version.
However, after his collection had begun to grow, Collier decided it was time for all his fieldwork to stop. He needed to test his new taxonomy.
I wanted to really test that it was usable by everybody by getting others besides me to collect and name and submit these objects.
Among other outlets, this involved creating a website, verysmallobjects.com.
I have instructions, I have the classification charts.
It also involved hosting exhibitions around the world.
I've exhibited in libraries, galleries, and in museums. You can show up at the gallery and museum, you can look around the gallery and museum, you can bring something in from outside, you can dig around in your pockets. These boxes are the objects that I am still in the process of cataloging. So how they initially come to me is just like this. They'll put their object in the vial and they'll write down the name. So this is a Nelly Hull Bild Erit Whitus Circa Rough Otherlick. As you can see, is some kind of papery little white dot. Some people completely resist all of it and just write something like hair.
Collier also created field kits to sell on his website and to give away at events.
Each one of these kits is designed to collect 20 small objects. It has some instructions. You have your little plastic forceps. You have bags for the objects.
And along the way came surprises, like a new collection at a Topeka-based library.
This is a field guide that was published by the library and gallery.
A translation of the field kits into German,
Das Collier Klassifikationssystem für sehr kleine Objekte.
and receiving a mysterious package from a grade school in Leipzig.
And they put all their small objects in these little matchboxes and just typed out the names and put them on the outside of the boxes.
Despite the success of Collier's collection and classification system, his purpose hasn't always been universally understood.
I've had people say, is it an art project? Is it just somebody who's completely insane? Is it a joke? What is it? You know, and I like that. The whole project was born out of this compulsion to just get people to slow down a little bit and look a little more closely at their daily environment.
So what's next for the Collier classification system?
Well, in the future, I hope to continue to exhibit the collection and to keep getting submissions. Ideally, in my mind, like my dream is for people to have in their homes their own little display cases, sort of like in the spirit of the Wunderkammern of the 18th century, how people used to have their own little cabinet of curiosity in their house where they could display all their seashells and whatever. I imagine little collections of very small objects functioning in a similar way in people's homes.